Hello, everybody. We're here at World of Beer in Charlottesville, a brand new location, and we've got a couple of special guests with us. First to my right here, your left is Dan. Dan is the general manager here, and we've got joining from a vacation somewhere. We've got Shane Welch, president and chief bottle washer at Sixpoint. You're muted, Shane.
I was instructed to mute, and now I'm taking a preemptive measure to unmute myself.
well, you're the guy we're here to talk to.
Absolutely.
Before we get too much into you, we want to hear about this new location here in Charlottesville. Dan, tell us a little bit about. I mean, you guys are just opening.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, we've only been open for 2 weeks and a couple of days now. It's been a great reception so far. Charlottesville's definitely one of those communities that's oriented towards culture and appreciation, and there's a lot less out there that can be more appreciated than craft beer. It's a work of passion, so bringing it to this area and adding to the culture that already existed from some other establishments has been a pleasure.
Well, that's fantastic, and you can see, what's your tap rail? How many taps do you have here?
We actually currently have 57 taps on a rotating basis. We also have 3 taps that are specialized. One is an infusion tower tap, and the other one's actually a cask engine.
All right, cask engine. And tonight, all 57 taps are Sixpoint, right?
Oh, yeah. And
so
then some, right?
We've got no, we don't. I think we've got 7 or 8 taps over there that are Sixpoint, and we're going to get into some of those. But let's welcome our other guest. And Shane, welcome. You are on the West Coast today?
Yeah, not on vacation though.
Oh, you're working. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we can respect that. So, out picking out hop harvest, perhaps.
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
I like it.
Yeah, in the Pacific Northwest. All right. Well, we want to talk about some of your beers. Specifically, we want to talk about the launch this week, last week, whenever it got to the distributors of the Sensi Harvest.
Sure.
And we're gonna have a couple of pours of that here. Who else on the panel has had that? Charles, Lola. Charles has got it in his hand.
All right.
Lola has not, and Gil struck out, I think, at the distributor at the bottle shop. But tell us a little bit about the background of it, where Sensi, the name Sensi, comes from, what you were trying to do with that beer, and what you think we should get from it.
Sure. So, Sensi, first of all, Sensi refers to the hop cones that are part of the hop bind. So if you're familiar with the anatomical features of this plant, pretty interesting the way it works. There's basically a male plant and a female plant, but brewers in the United States, we only really use the female plant. The male plants have basically all been eradicated, and they only use them now for breeding purposes to develop new strains. So Sensi is a Spanish term referring to sen semillas. Semillas meaning semillas means seed. Semillas means seedless or without seeds. So basically it's part of the effort nationally to eradicate everything but the hop cone. The hop cone is the only really useful feature of this plant, and that's what brewers use to make all these great flavors in the beer.
That's awesome. Fantastic. All right. Well, what particular hops are harvested fresh in this? Where did you get these hops from? Somewhere local to your brewery in Brooklyn?
No, for the viewers out there, so you know, there's really 2 main areas that produce over 90% of all the hops that are grown in the United States. First one is the Yakima Valley, which is the bulk of it, right around 77% of all hops. Another 15% or so is grown in the Willamette Valley, which is just east and south of Portland, Oregon. And then there's a little bit of production in Idaho, right? All the other areas around the United States have basically been eliminated for hop growing, and the reason why is there have been horrible blights and downy mildew and bad disease. So now we've concentrated almost all of the hop production for the entire industry. So just think of it this way: there's now around 4,000 breweries, 4,500 licensed breweries in the United States. 100% of those 4,500 breweries that are using American hops, they're all getting their hops from this area. So we're all sourcing our one of our key ingredients of our beer from this very special area of the United States, designed specifically to grow hops.
Can you talk about a little bit, it's a harvest ale. It seems to be a new style, if it is a style at all, like, because you have to get the hops very quick, and you just said about they're in a specific area, and you had to get that quick into the brewery to use to get all the goodness from the hops. So, what is the concept about the wet hop ales and the whole harvest ale thing?
Well, it's an interesting thing that came up several years ago. Basically, think of it this way: like wine. Let's look at wine versus beer. Wine is made once a year, and you pick the grapes, use the juice, and that entire production run is supposed to last the entire year. Beer, on the other hand, is most breweries brew beer every single day, but you only pick hops once a year. So think of it conceptually, like if you're brewing every day, but hops are only picked once a year, you're going to have to pick them and process them somehow to make them available as an ingredient year-round. So someone had the idea back in the day, well, what happens if you actually just make a beer with hops when you pluck them right off the vine, right? So in other words, you're not using dried or processed hops, you're using fresh hops right off the, basically they're alive, they're just grabbed and put right into the process. So it's funny, they can be a phenomenal beer when done well and picked and incorporated into the beer in the right way. There's nothing that compares to a fresh hop beer. Unfortunately, when you pick them and you don't add them in the right way and incorporate, it's actually, in my opinion, worse than a beer using pelletized hops or baled hops. So the art isn't really the fact of like who picked them fresh or whatever. It's really about how you went about incorporating them into the beer. Because think of it this way: when you pick hops, we dry. One of the first steps they do is they dry them, and they put them in these gigantic bins, and then they force air underneath them, and they'll take them out. Right around 92% of all of the water that's in these hops, they'll take them out, right? So when you add fresh hops to beer, if you think of it mathematically, 90% of what you're adding to the beer is just water. The rest of it is some vegetative matter, chlorophyll, and then some essential oil and some alpha acids is what's left. So you're really, depending upon how you add them into the beer, you may be adding just a lot of leaf matter. You know what I mean?
So your quantities grow, like you have to use much more hops when you do a wet hop like that?
Yeah, like I was just hanging out with my friend Patrick Smith yesterday at this brewery called Bale Breaker, and they did a wet hop beer where they use 75 pounds per barrel. Now, a modern craft brewer, a typical brewer uses less than a pound per barrel of pelletized hops. Sam Adams used to boast back in the day that they used 1 pound per barrel, right? Typical craft brewer, hop-heavy brewer, like let's say, my friends over at Firestone Walker, they might use 3 or 4 pounds a barrel, which is a lot. Now, 75 pounds of hops per barrel, like you can't even fit that in a barrel. So it's like you start to think about how extreme this has gotten. It's just gotten out of control almost.
So is that a constant process? So you keep adding and getting beer on one end, and how does the process, if you need that much, how does the process work so you can get that?
Well, it depends on when you add it. I mean, there's different ways that you can do it. You can steep them in the kettle. You can run the beer through them. So that's what's called like a hop back. So what you do is you make like a gigantic sieve almost. Like picture like a huge cheesecloth or like a food grade kind of like mesh sock or like a screen that like when the beer's done brewing, you push it through there and it will kind of pick it up as if it were steeping it in there. So there's different ways you can add them. You can add them directly into the fermenter. You could put them into the bright tank. You could put them into the roux tank. Depends on what you're looking to achieve.
Awesome. Man, it seems a lot of work to get such a fresh beer.
Yeah, I know they're. Sorry to cut you off, Shane, but I know like here up in upstate New York, there's hop farms starting to crop up now, particularly with the new farm bill that passed in 2012, dealing with farm breweries. So they're trying to bring that back as a crop here. So I wonder if that's anything you guys will look forward to or look into down the road.
Yeah, it's a good point. We actually did make a beer using upstate New York hops back in 2011. It was because I don't know if you remembered, but in September, I think it was September of 2011, there was an earthquake in upstate New York, and we were picking hops that day. And it was Mad Scientist. It was Mad Scientist number 6, but we called it Mad Scientist 5.8 because we had a 5.8 on the Richter scale earthquake in upstate New York.
Yeah, I remember that. I was at work and the second floor of our building, and everything just started like, you got dizzy from it.
Well, we didn't have to pick the hops; they just kind of fell off the plants.
Cool.
That is great. So,
Hey guys.
Hey.
Hey, we've got our first bar patron here who just happens to be sitting at the bar, ordered a sweet action, and when I went up to him, this is his name is Dan Johnson, and he is from a little place we might have heard of, Columbia, South Carolina. Cool. And when we've got one of our Craft Beer Nation members lives down there, the Ashley Bauer, the beer fairy. So, but Dan had some questions for you, so let's start the conversation.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say hey and thank you for doing this. I had that opportunity to just order a sweet action, so I think it's going to be good. I haven't tasted it yet, so I'll give that a taste. Well, that's outstanding. And my question is about water. How big a difference does water make in the making of the production of your beers?
I mean, it's huge. I mean, water is the biggest component of any beer, not only by volume but by weight. And just by sheer mass, if you think about it, if an average beer or even a craft beer is 5, 6, or 7% alcohol, there's a certain amount of dissolved hops and sugar in there. The rest is just water. So more than 90% of most beers are just water. And the flavor comes from the remaining percentage of items that are in there. But you can imagine that the water has a ton of minerals, usually concentrated or dissolved in there, and that gives it a lot of flavor.
Can the difference in water in different places make a difference in the taste of the beer? So like I'll give you an example. You have these breweries that are moving all around the country, and
right.
So one kind of expects that the beer would be the same, but would the change in the water and the mineral content of the water make a difference when they move?
It absolutely does. So this is how they do to maintain the consistency. They do what would be called like a reverse engineering. They'll strip water down to basically distilled water, and then they'll add back in the exact proportion of minerals that would have existed in the original water of their native brewing location, and then therefore it would be like using the same water. It's incredibly time-consuming and expensive, but it's really the only way to get it so that the water is exactly the same.
Is that how you brew in Brooklyn, or do you RO the water and build it up, or do you just take what you get from the city?
Right.
No, we don't use pure city water because the city water has got a really good mineral profile, but like most municipal water sources, they usually chlorinate the water just to sanitize it. And what we'll do is we'll hold the water in a holding tank, which we call like a hot liquor tank, and it will be held at a certain temperature. And all the volatiles, like the chlorine, will evaporate, and some of the minerals will precipitate as well. And then we brew using that after that process has been done.
I got one last question. I don't want to take up any time, but
You're fine.
One last question. What are you going to bring to the scene that's new and different?
In terms of formulations or just personality?
Both. I think there's a lot of different breweries that are coming on the scene now, and I've had World of Beer. I've had like 2,000 different beers.
Okay.
So what are you going to bring that's new and different?
Well, I mean, we've been around for over 10 years, and we've been brewing new and different beers since the beginning. So I guess the question for us would be, like, what are we going to continue to do and keep in line with what we have been doing, which is a part of our DNA as a company. But that being said, we do have 3 new formulations that we are releasing next year. It's going to be our most prolific year for new can releases. 2015 is going to be huge.
Let me piggyback on that question. How stressful are for the breweries nowadays the pressure of having to keep coming up with something new? Like, it seems that the craft beer consumers, like guys, like always want something new. Is that adds an extra pressure to the breweries to, have new staff all the time, or how do you feel about that?
It's a good question, Gil. The way I feel about it is, like, if you're a brewer, you're almost like if you're let's say you're a musician and you have an audience that you play for, right? Now, every time you go to a concert, the audience may request to play your hit song, right? They always want to hear that one hit, but you're really going to be judged by what you've done lately. I mean, you're going to have to continually wow and impress people, or you could just become irrelevant. And I like to challenge, because nowadays it seems like people want new beer. They want to know what's new, what's hot, what's fresh, and I don't feel intimidated by that. I think we have a crew of brewers and a crew of people who work on the operations side and the procurement side to develop new formulations, and we actually have more stuff in the pipeline than what we know what to do with.
Wow. See, if it was up to me, you'd be doing this forever. You didn't need to do anything else.
Yeah, is Three Beans making a comeback one day?
Yeah. Best thing you ever made, in my opinion.
I appreciate that. That was here's the thing. Look,
I don't want to add that extra pressure that I just talked about. Just saying, this is just one of the best beer I've had in the industry so far.
Oh, wow. Thank you very much. It's funny because if we wanted to, right now, I could give you the beers that we could just make, and we could probably be the most profitable brewery, but that's not really what our intention is. I mean, everyone seems to want these certain beers, and I'm sure if we made them, we could sell a lot of them, but there's a certain, the reason why I started this brewery was that I always felt like there's formulations that are out there. They haven't been discovered yet, so to speak. But they're out there. They exist. And it's part of my personal quest and the quest of the Sixpoint Brewers for us to find these formulations, to discover them and to bring them to life and share them with people. So that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to find the new frontier for beer.
Do you think that's why you're so successful in this industry?
I mean, I don't consider us that successful. I just think we're a humble, small brewing company that we just try to make great beers. I mean, I would say if there's success surrounded, it's just because I'm surrounded by really great people, and I got lucky by the stars aligned at a good time.
How many barrels of beer did you guys package last year?
Around 60,000.
Cool. Are you going to bring back or introduce a new dark beer? Because I know you used to have diesel, but right now you don't really have a dark beer in your year-round lineup. So I was wondering if you're going to have plans for something like that, because there's a lot of stout and porter fans out there.
Good question, man. We absolutely are. We got a special project for early 2015.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I noticed you released some of the recipes for some of the Beers for Beast beers from the most recent one. And I was at the 2013 one, so I have a special request from my friend Darlene, who works at our local craft beer shop. She wants to know if you will ever give her the recipe to the ICANN Has Orange Chocolate Milk Stout from the 2013 Beers for Beast.
If I have it, I will gladly do that. I think we have archived all of the Beer for Beast recipes.
Cool.
And it's just simply a matter of emailing us, and I think I could have if we have it, I'll have our brewer pull that out of the file and send it over to you.
Okay, I'll send you an email after all this is done.
Cool.
Is that one, Charles? Is that your imaginary friend? Because you've been talking about that beer for a long time.
No, it's Darlene. She's my beer connection.
Yeah.
He's a dark beer
Dan,
fanatic, so.
Dan here asked a question, but I think about what's coming next. Now, what are you going to wow me with? And I think what Dave really wanted to ask back, what Shane really wanted to ask back, is what do you want? I mean, what kind of, if you've had a couple thousand beers from World of Beer, when you look at the tap rail, what makes you ask for a pint?
Well, I think when you have a couple thousand beers, I'm having whatever's on the tap. But
What do you really like though? What do you reach for?
I like stout. Right? I think stouts are good, and I like hefes, right? And you know, what's interesting is a lot of times you don't see a lot of local breweries making hefes.
Yeah,
good hefes, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like that. It's stouts and hefes, right? I'd have to say.
Yeah.
But he still never answered my question regarding what's next. He gave a little teaser, but not exactly what's next.
Three great beers coming in 2015. Are you allowed to tell us anything about them, Shane?
I am. Well, I'm allowed to tell you that they're going to be cool and going to be great, but
if he's not allowed, nobody is.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So I'll make a commitment. I'm going to drink those 3 beers.
okay.
If you make a commitment, you'll tell me what they are.
Well, let me ask something, Shane.
I can't. I wish I could, but I can't do that because there's sort of this fair disclosure that if I tell you, then I have to tell everyone, including my wholesalers and everything. But we won't disappoint you. We have stuff coming out. I was working on the designs of the packaging earlier today, actually.
Cool.
Let me ask you something, Shane. How do you decide what you're going to do next? Do you get inspired, like you see an ingredient and you're like, oh, I want to use orange chocolate or whatever? Or do you plan it out? Do you have meetings? How do you come about those decisions?
It's a good question. We don't take a traditional approach for a company. I think a lot of companies, what they do is they have what's called a focus group, where they try to determine where there's an opportunity, a market opportunity, and then they try to develop a product that will allow them to extract money from that opportunity. The way I see it is I try to think of a flavor combination, like in my head, like what hasn't really been created yet, and what can we do that's new and kind of introduce a new flavor combination to people. And you kind of nailed it when you said sometimes it's an ingredient, because what's happening right now in brewing is new hop strains are hitting the market, new production techniques, and people are incorporating exotic ingredients, and that's where a lot of the creativity can come in.
Cool. I have a couple of comments and questions from people on Google Plus for you.
Okay.
And I'll show you here. They pop up on the, let's see if this works. And I don't think Common Tracker wants to load. But anyway, Tom Snyder is watching. He went out and bought a whole bunch of he got the Sensi Harvest and a few others. And he says you're the Beatles of canned beer.
Well, it's funny because Tom can know that at our company, at our internal meetings, we have a popular phrase called the Lennon-McCartney, and we use this phrase for whenever there's someone who is a really good team. So, like, we have this guy Greg, and he works really well with this other guy Vinny, and we call them a Lennon-McCartney because they just have such outstanding chemistry, interpersonal chemistry, that we equate it to the Beatles and how prolific they were with their singing, songwriting capabilities in the early years.
But who's the Yoko? Are you the Yoko?
No, I think my dog, Barley or something.
Uh-oh, she's going to
Do you
break
really
them
name
all.
your dog Barley?
That's a
Yeah, my
problem.
dog. One of my dogs' name is Barley, and the other one's name is Chinook.
Oh man, now I'm gonna need to get a dog.
And
Just so you can name them after.
and we also have Corey Larrabee. He wants to know, how do you handle the pressure to increase distribution across the U.S. and overseas?
Has he handled that?
One of the worst things about it is when you expand distribution, the hardest thing is how is it going to impact the quality of the beer. You know, the longer you extend a supply chain, the more abuse the beer absorbs, because the further it gets away from home, the less refrigeration, the more jostling. So a lot of times, if it's on a truck or if it's on transport for a long time, it gets jostled or shaken or agitated, and it's harder to control because, like, if there's a problem with the bar down the street from the brewery, I can just walk over there. But if there's a problem on the other side of the country or the world, it's harder to manage what's happening at the bar or the restaurant. So I'd say managing distribution is really all about building relationships with people you can trust, people who are putting the beer first. In other words, you know that they're going to take care of the beer and treat it properly so that you don't have to worry about how it's being handled and presented to the customers.
Yeah. Are you know, a lot of breweries are like have no parking lot anymore because they're just growing, trying to take over their parking lot. Is that something that you guys are planning grow on your own location, or something that you can talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have the luxury, I think, of what some breweries have. Like if they are in a rural area or an industrial park, they can take over their parking lot or whatever. As you may know, New York City has over 8 million residents, and most of the available property.
You mean the city of Brooklyn?
Brooklyn as a borough is now bigger than Chicago. I mean, it's
Wow.
Yeah.
it's just one little section of New York, being used relatively here, but so you know, building a 10-acre site with you know, trails and a waterfall and whatever people are doing nowadays is not attainable. And you know, that doesn't mean that there's other opportunities that aren't available. But you know, at the end of the day, too, I think that you have to decide what your intentions are with your brewery, because I think some people, what they try to do is they want to turn their brewery into like a museum or like a mausoleum, where it's like, here, come check out how awesome my brewery is, and it's just this majestic palace, and you should come in and hang out, and we'll bombard you with merchandise and stuff. I never really thought, I always felt like what I felt we could do, really awesome, is create a customer experience in the beer. So like when we deliver and create these cans, that the can has a story, and that inside that can there's liquid in there that's just phenomenal, and that's the experience, the real core experience of Sixpoint. Because nowadays, like, we're all in different parts of the world right now, and we're sitting here and we're talking to each other using technology. So we don't even need to necessarily convene in the same location. We can all do this from our own, you know, out at the bar, our own residence. So I actually think that's where it's at. It's like, find a place where you can produce really amazing beer, get it into people's hands, and create great stories and great liquid. That's really what we've been about since the beginning.
Well, I want to say that the Willy Backer is my favorite style of glass. I have about 5 that I just love that you guys came with and I look at your I think is the Mad Scientist number 20, and they had a Willy Backer glass. When I saw that, I went right into in your shopping area and got one myself. And that's just what you're saying. Like, you can get that people that are crazy like me can, you know, get that kind of stuff, which is awesome.
So Dan and I are sitting here. I'm sorry. Did you ask a question? I just jumped right. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
You know, I actually wanted to ask one thing real quick, and it ties into your story you tell. And one of the big things that people mention about your beers is you don't put this specific style anywhere on the label. We wanted to ask about that decision to do that.
So, if you look at the new packaging, like if you look at the new packaging and the 6-packs and stuff like that, you'll see that there is the style is on there. I have the ability to upload files here, right? I could share.
Yeah. We have a picture of your IPA. It says IPA on the side.
Okay, so the new 6-pack packaging?
Yeah, I think the new packaging has.
Okay.
When I was at the store the other day buying the cans that I did, the boxes had on the side of them, like I got the crisp and it said pills on the side.
Oh, there you go.
Now,
It's funny because it's sad for me because I never really thought the Bengali being an IPA. Never stopped to think about it. It was just this nice hop beer, and then I saw the package and saw IPA and I said, that kind of brings a different. It kind of induced me to think IPA, you know.
Was there a conscious marketing decision behind that? Behind not putting it on there, Shane?
Well, I was going to upload a file here. I'm trying to figure out how I can I can add I could take a screenshot. I guess what I can do is take a screenshot.
You can actually do a
Screen
screen.
share.
Screen share, yeah.
Screen share button.
All right,
Second icon on the left.
hold on for 1 second.
Yeah, it's that the green with the white arrow.
All right, so I'm going to share with you guys something that no one's seen.
All right.
Just between us.
Oh.
No one will know.
Screen share. Okay, so there we go. So these are coming out. So this right here is coming out. This was actually canned this morning, and it's being distributed. It's hitting wholesalers tomorrow, and it will be on shelves next week. These are 6-packs of resin. We've been making these in 4-packs.
Oh yeah.
January of 2012.
That makes me very happy.
We're launching 6-packs. The best thing about it is you're probably going to get better. There's going to be better pricing because right now 4-pack usually around in the market is around right around $8.99 or $9.99, and if you're in New York, it's a little more. But you're going to get two extra cans in a pack now, and you're not going to pay 50% more. You're going to pay a couple dollars more. So you're going to get
Excellent.
You're going to get a superior value.
So that is my beer. There's always resin in my refrigerator, so that makes me happy.
There's nobody any happier than Charles right now.
Well, maybe Michael Tang, which is not here.
He doesn't count. He's not here.
Yeah.
So, as you probably noticed when you looked at that image that I shared, it's pretty blatant and pretty broadcasted, the style on the side of the box. And that was something that we actually did listen to customer feedback. There were some people that said, "I love your beer, but I just don't like how you put this. You omit the style." So I thought, wow, what a shame. We go through all this trouble. We make great beer. They love the taste of it, but they don't want to buy it because it doesn't have the info on the box. I'm like, that's a easy solution.
That's sad because I love your beer because of that.
Yeah, and the thing is if you look at when you're facing the box dead on, it still doesn't really jump out at you. It's just when you turn the box down on its side, you don't have it broadcasted. But I think we kind of satisfy both of those now. I mean, if someone really wants to, because there's this whole group of people who they always want to feel like they knew it before it was big, or they knew it before it was cool, or whatever. So it doesn't overtly tell you like this is what kind of beer it is. You'd have to be in the know what it is. There's some people who email us and say that they thought it was an energy drink or something, and they just started drinking it on the street.
And they drink it at work.
But yeah.
Yeah, and Gil's screen
That's
sharing
my
what it used to look like, the 4-pack.
All right, guys.
Oh.
Dan and I are sitting here, and we are drinking Kelpie. We are drinking Mad Scientist number 20.
Okay.
Oh man.
It is interesting, and I'd like to. I'd have a couple of guesses, and Dan and I have talked about it on mute here, but I'd like to know what's the base of this beer, and where were the scientists going when they created it, Shane?
Interesting. We have a brewer at Sixpoint now who's Scottish, and his name is Keir, and he decided he was talking about for one of his first Mad Scientist brews, he wanted to do a real Scottish beer and use some seaweed and do a Kelpie. So we did the Kelpie Porter. So the Scots actually have a pretty rich tradition of using alternative agents in the beer. And it's actually a pretty interesting reason why. So back in the day, as you know, they've been making beer for a long time, but hops were a very valuable commodity. The problem is hops don't grow in Scotland at all. Barley does. They actually have a ton of really good barley that grows in Scotland, just no hops. So the Scots used to have to buy their hops from the English, which is fine when they're getting along. When they're not getting along, they jack the taxes on them, and it becomes really expensive or troublesome to make beer. So the Scots used to use all different types of grasses and herbs and seaweed too.
Heather notably, right?
Heather was a very popular agent, and there's still a few on the market that you can get.
Yeah, and kelp is a bittering agent as well. Then, so that's where the kelp is in here for.
Yeah.
Does the kelp, does the seaweed brings any saltness at all to the beer, or?
It brings.
I'm salivating here, by the way.
It's I would say this is a cross between. This is a Scottish ale porter / amber. There's roasted malt flavor here. There is a fair amount of bitter, but only balancing bitter. There's no hop bitter, no fragrant bitter in our fragrant hops.
It's good though. It's really good.
Do you have anything left in your glass so we can see the beer?
Yeah,
Stop chugging it.
This is it's very cloudy, and look at the sediment in the bottom of the glass. So this was just a half pour.
That actually might have been one of the first or the last pours of the keg, because it looks like what happened was they got an agitation and picked up some of the yeast sediment out of the keg.
All right.
Well, I think it's good. I was going to knock mine out before we talked about it. I've been trying to hold back from drinking it all so he could talk about it.
Right on.
I got one quick question.
Hear it.
Do you ever see a day where you would sell out to somebody like Anheuser-Busch? And if not, why?
The answer is no. As long as I'm running the brewery, that won't ever happen. But we get emails or phone calls or letters once a week now from private equity who want to buy the brewery, and you know. If your goal was, hey, I would just want to get a big check and then, go to the beach for the rest of your life, I guess you could do that, but it's not what I'm looking to do. So I got a whole team of people, too, who the reason why they joined this company was they believed in what we were doing, and they're counting on it like as a livelihood. So first of all, I would be betraying them, right? And then they're all now they're all working with someone else or they're out of a job, so the guilt of that would be crushing. And furthermore, I don't think Anheuser-Busch would know what to do with Sixpoint. I mean, they
definitely put the style on there. That would be the first thing to see. And it'd be Pilsner.
Well, there'd be a half-naked woman on the box, too. So.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, they're fantastic brewers, and they've been able to successfully run a company for over 150 years, so they're clearly doing something right, but they're not. I don't think they have the same goals. When they wake up every day, they don't have the same goals that we have, so they were not aligned in that sense.
I work for a non-profit fair trade company, and I could earn much more money anywhere else, and I choose to work for them because of my belief, and that's the reason why I love craft beer, because it's part of what I believe, and I know it's not only something that is amazing that I like to drink, but I know, you know, the background of it. So it makes a big difference, at least it does for me.
That's right, Gil. We're supporting small business.
Well,
Every
keep in mind this thing right here. Anheuser-Busch is under tremendous pressure to generate a return for their shareholders. They were purchased by an international beverage conglomerate called InBev for $52 billion. Now, the only way that that acquisition makes sense is they have to make a ton of profit so that InBev can pay back the loan that they took out to buy Anheuser-Busch. And if you think about it, what that means is when they wake up every day, they have to make a ton of money. So their goal is, we wake up every day, we need to make a shitload of profit. Now, when we wake up at Sixpoint, that's not, when I roll out of bed or the other people, they're not like, that's not what they're going through their head. You know what I mean?
You sleep at your brewery? I'm sorry. You wake up at Sixpoint?
I did for a long time.
Okay.
I actually lived in the grain room because I lost everything I had, and we almost went bankrupt, and I had to move into the brewery because I lost my apartment, actually.
I didn't bring that up.
No, I'm not offended by it. I'm actually proud that I actually, because I definitely felt like quitting at certain times, but I just felt like I'd rather tough it out, you know.
Good. We're glad you did.
How have you guys, are you still recovering from the Hurricane Sandy?
The neighborhood is. I mean, our brewery is basically fully operational again.
Cool.
But, you know, Red Hook sustained a lot of damage during that, and it's not 100%, but it's pretty good.
Good.
I like Red Hook. They're good. Go Brooklyn. My best friend lives in Brooklyn. My best friend from high school, she lives in Brooklyn.
Do you guys do a tour at all in your brewery? Or are you planning to?
Yeah, we have two different phases of renovations that are coming up. One of them that involves the productive side, so the capacity build out and stuff, and then the second element of is the hospitality element.
Cool.
But currently they're not available.
So with the new packaging you have, now that you have all these 6-packs, do you have any plans down the road to do like a mixed pack, variety pack, anything like that?
That'd be cool.
Well, to give you an idea of how those work, so when you buy a mixed pack in a store, what breweries have to do is they have to take individual beers that they've already packaged and then hand pack them into a mother carton. It's called a mother carton. So they're usually done just for promotional purposes, because unless you canned all those or bottled or whatever your format is in a relatively compressed time frame, you may not be using fresh or the freshest beer you could possibly use to assemble that variety pack.
Okay.
So I'm not opposed to the idea. I would just want to make sure that we would, like, if we canned Sweet Action Bengali Crisp and Global Warmer or whatever, and we had them all done in a few days, then, you know, maybe we could pack them into a 12-pack and do a variety pack that way. But it'd be a very limited thing that we could do. And then furthermore, their price would probably be a little bit higher because there would be a certain amount of manual labor that you'd have to put into it. So if people were okay, we could test the waters, though. We do get requests for it, so it's something that I'm interested in maybe pursuing.
Now, you talk about cost, like being in a costly area. Like you just talk about, you know, being in New York, that makes it quite expensive. Does that, it's a disadvantage that you see for yourself? Like, does your costs get very high because where you are, or it just doesn't make any difference on your case?
Yeah, I mean, anytime that you're in New York or you have even big companies or publishers or media houses or whatever, and they have offices in New York, you know, there's a price for being there, which is evident in the cost, but then there's a benefit, which is you're basically paying for access. You have tremendous access to the cultural capital of the U.S. and a network that's second to none. So, yeah, cost is higher, but what you get out of it is also higher too. I mean, if you were in if you were doing amazing things in the middle of northern Canada, that you could be phenomenal, but you could be just so distant from everyone that no one would ever notice or take any. No one would really care either, I guess. So it's one of those things that you get what you pay for, I guess.
It's a trade-off, huh?
Yeah, it's like that's why a lot of people move to New York. When they get there, they're like, wow, this is incredibly expensive and hard and loud and competitive and all those things. But if those things were so bad and so oppressive, then why does the population keep going up? I mean, there must be something redeeming about the city that keeps people coming back. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why they can charge so much, because it's so wonderful. So many people want to be there.
Yeah, if it was horrible, then the prices would plummet and everyone would evacuate, right? So
exactly.
All right, guys, I've got a new guest here at the table. I've got Eric Hendrickson, and he's the product manager here at World of Beer. So he is a on-staff employee. Came over. They've only been open here for a couple of weeks, but he's been here since July, you said, and he actually got to build out the tap system, the tap lines and whatnot. So that's kind of a neat experience. We all work in a position where we get to build our own thing, and that's kind of fun. But I wanted to introduce you. I wanted to ask you a few things about seasonals. I mean, this Sensi Harvest is a seasonal ale. And from a sales perspective, I mean, what kind of I look at your 60 taps here, and I see a lot of standards and a lot of go-tos. But are the majority of the people that are sitting down at the bar, is the turnover on the Sensi kind of beers on the seasonal one-offs, or are you finding the college crowd is more just give me what I know?
I mean, I think it's certainly a mix of both. I think that with the seasonal beers, bringing in a couple of sixtals or a half barrel, it's certainly going to go within a few days, and just continuing to back it up. Like this time of year, going from Meriton, bringing in pumpkin beers that are going to be tapping soon. The harvest ales, of course, are always great. This time, early fall, they come out very fresh. Very bright, like showcasing a lot of great hop flavor characteristics. As far as the customers and where the popularity is with the beers, I would say that it's pretty mixed. A lot of people have their go-tos, whereas others are they may like a certain brewery or a certain style of beer, and they're just ready to rotate on those styles.
Interesting.
The place looks beautiful, by the way.
Yeah, this is a pretty amazing place. What you can't see on the other side of this is a little stage area where they've got some live music. There's a patio outside where I think they're going to have some music as soon as we're done here tonight. So, yeah, this is, it's your typical, I wouldn't say your typical. I'd say this is a little better than your typical World of Beer. If you've been to a World of Beer, you get the vibe that they've got going here, but this is really nice. And it's brand new. 3 weeks ago opening, so.
Yep.
So, we've got unvomited on tables here, so. These tables are still virgins. Yeah.
I thought they were pre-vomited.
They might pre-vomit them at the.
Okay.
Yeah. They send
That's
them
in New York.
They send them to a fraternity house for a week, and then they bring them back. And then
exactly.
They ship them. Yeah. So, from a distribution standpoint, our distributor guy was here earlier and had to go. But Shane, what kind of things do you do to try and, I guess in the three-tiered system, you've got that piece in the middle, and you just have to hope that your distributors are promoting you into venues like this. Here's a situation where we've got 80 of your beers on tap tonight, and the crowd is having a great time with it. But what do you do, Shane, from a Sixpoint perspective to try and encourage broader distribution of your product?
Well, I take a kind of a reverse approach here. So I don't feel the best method is to push the wholesaler to broadly distribute the product. I try connecting with people like you who are the real consumers. The wholesalers are just they're the intermediary who take the product from us, and they're the fulfillment service, so they get it to the accounts. They provide the logistical network and the sales, right? But really, at the end of the day, the way I see it is the only thing that really matters is that the customer has to have an awesome experience with the beer.
That's awesome.
And if you guys love the beer, and they'll find a way to get it to you, is what I'm saying, because these people, by very nature, they're merchants, and they sell beer. That's how they make a living. And if they know that there's fans out there that want our beers, they want Sixpoint beers, they're going to find a way to get them into those accounts. So I try to focus my efforts on really delivering you guys awesome products, and then the wholesalers from there seem to find a way to get them into the right bars.
Interesting. All right, we are coming down to the end of the hour here. So if you guys have any of you guys have last questions for Shane?
I just thought maybe we can give Shane an opportunity to talk about the beer for beasts, which I think is something awesome they do at the Sixpoint. How they came about and how you guys got involved. I just learned your own 2 dogs. So I can see you going that vein.
It was a very organic thing that happened. I was having beers with Todd Ahlstrom, a beer advocate, and we sat around and talking about how the craft beer industry was moving in very weird directions at the time, and we weren't really happy with the way some of the things were going. And we thought it would be really cool to do an event that was not about promoting or trying to make money or anything like that. It was about a cause. And we thought of a cause that was very close to us. I've been rescuing shelter animals my entire life. Todd has and his wife have cats that they've rescued. And anyone who's ever had a pet or a rescue animal knows that they're like basically part of the family. And it's something that, you know, no matter where you are, too, like, it's an easy way to bond with people. Like, when I travel, sometimes people will notice that I'm looking at pictures of my dogs on my phone, and then they'll be like, "Oh, you have dogs? I do too." And then they show me pictures of their dogs on their phone, and yeah, there's your dog. Actually, let's see if I can get my guy to come out here. Hold on for a minute. Chinook, come on, buddy.
Don't you just love those names?
What was it, Chinook and Barley?
Uh-oh. She's freaking. Uh-oh.
Oh, no.
Oh, look at that baby.
Hey, buddy.
There's Barley. Barley, come here.
Cute Barley.
You're hanging out.
Yeah.
Anyone who ever watched our Hangouts knows that animals are often displayed on our
Most
Hangouts.
of us have animals, whether we want them to or not.
Yes.
Sometimes they're walking along our keyboard and typing things out.
Yeah.
Knocking beer over.
Well, I think we're going to come down here. We're at the bottom of the hour here, or the top of the next hour. So we're
Wait,
going to.
I've got one question, Matt.
Oh, go ahead.
All right. Now I'm not in Virginia, so I don't get to go to this Tap TakeOver. And I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, so I probably won't get to go to anybody's Tap TakeOver. But I do know that Sixpoint is at other breweries this week. Where are you at?
Well, we have an event in Florida tonight, actually. We have an event in Miami and also an event tomorrow in Orlando.
Okay.
So we got a couple events this weekend happening in Florida.
Did we see a tap list that had 33 beers on tap in Miami? I think there were 33 Sixpoint beers on tap.
That's correct, and there's even a bus I think that's taking people from one place to the next. So in theory, there's actually 34 if you include the bus.
Do they take people from Pennsylvania to Florida tonight?
The bus has a beer on tap too. So.
All right, I'm making a note because that might be our next event is a beer bus, right? So.
I wonder if that's where our friend Jeffrey is. I'm sorry.
Well, I believe he is there. Yes.
He probably is.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for Shane Welch giving us an hour of his time here. We're going to take a half-hour break, and we're going to come back with our this week's episode of Pints and Quarts. Shane's going to also be in on that hangout, so if you want to see a few more questions asked of Shane, join us in 30 minutes at 8:30 p.m. Eastern for Pints and Quarts episode 18. So until then, we're going to say goodbye, and we'll see you all in 30 minutes.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Shane.
Yep.